the fact of the matter is that religious people, not all of them, I grant you, you have some self-righteous religious people, but when we say as religious people that we are believers, we are actually confessing to a certain kind of agnosticism. A believer is different than a knower. If I knew something, I wouldn't believe it. In other words, I believe that there's a place called Papua New Guinea. I trust maps. I've never been there. But I wouldn't say I believe in my brother, because I know the guy. So belief falls short of knowledge. Belief acknowledges an element of faith. So the religious person in that sense is at least being epistemologically honest in saying, when it comes to life after death, on the basis of reason alone, I don't know, any more than Sean Carroll does. The difference between Sean Carroll and me is not that he has some data unavailable to me. The difference is that I will at least admit that my position on life after death, affirming it, is based on faith. He, poor atheist, is deluding himself into thinking that his denial of life after death is based on some kind of evidence. He hasn't produced any, he doesn't have any. Now, what about this idea that scientific explanation is the, forget the only, even the main form of explanation? Let's say I put some hot water, put some water into a stove or pot, and I put it on the stove, and I turn it on. And then I bring in Sean Carroll, a scientist, and I say, give me the explanation of what's going on. And he gives the scientific explanation. The temperature rises, the molecules become excited, there's bubbling, and so on. And he describes the laws of physics and so on. And that is one explanation, and it's a very valid explanation of what's happening. But here's a second explanation. Dinesh is trying to make a cup of tea. Now that is a second and a perfectly valid and in fact a needed explanation to give a full and accurate account of what's going on. To pretend that the scientific explanation is the only explanation is just plain ignorant. And the scientific explanation by itself would not suffice to give a full account of the empirical facts in front of us. Now, science too is based on a certain kind of faith. And it's really helpful when your ideas are based on assumptions to be aware of them. The underlying assumption of science is that reality is rational. That is not a scientific claim. It's an assumption. We can measure the speed of light all we want. But we don't know for a fact, except by assumption, that the speed of light is the same always and everywhere in the universe, and so it has been since the Big Bang. That's the assumption that drives our facts.